Welcome everybody again on this AperoTalk of Le Wagon. My name is Stijn. I'm a student at Le Wagon, and we're here tonight with Pieterjan from Showpad.
PJ.
PJ, okay. I'll call you PJ from now on. I guess we'll kick this off with an introduction of yourself. What is your background? What is Showpad? So people can have an idea.
Cool. So I'm PJ. I'm 34 years old, born in Bruges, but currently living in Ghent already about 10 years. I say living in Ghent, but I travel quite a lot. So sometimes I spend a couple of months in San Francisco, a couple of months here. I studied communication sciences in Leuven. Then did a master in international business. I joined Accenture after that. Actually before that I took like a sabbatical year, and in that year one of the things I did was driving with a Lada Niva for the car enthusiast. That's a Russian style, very old car. It's a car, Lada Niva. I bought it for 500 euros and traveled with a friend. I participated in something called Amsterdam Dakar. It was not a rally, it's just like, it's actually for a good cause. And we went from Amsterdam to Dakar, through the desert. But then I started some more, did business. I joined Accenture when they were still in Rue Royale, just around the corner here. Spent there about 2 years working on CRM projects, CRM service line. So already in kind of like sales, marketing area. And then I read an article about Netlog at the time. So maybe some of you might remember netlog.com, let's call it the Facebook of Belgium or Europe before it got crushed by Facebook. So I joined it at a very early stage. I was, I think the 15th or 14th employee there. I was one of the first non-coding employees. I was attracted for business development. I experienced tremendous growth of the company from 14 employees to about 125, massive revenue growth. And then, just before really the peak of Netlog, I decided to start my own company, my first company, which is called In the Pocket, mobile app developer. So co-founded that with Louis Jonker and Jeroen Lemaire. Company still exists today. They've developed hundreds of apps. Some of the most well-known will be application for the video zone application of the VRT, Brussels airport application, Bankcontact app. We did a lot of more than 300 apps, so really a lot. We're together with Abstract, probably one of the biggest app developers in Belgium. And from that company, from In the Pocket, so founded In the Pocket in 2010, so about 5 years ago, and then 2011 founded my second company, Showpad, together with Louis, and then a third co-founder, Peter, who's our CTO, more technical guy. So Showpad, very short, it's a sales enablement platform. Basically what we do is we align sales and marketing. And that sounds very fuzzy, but in a lot of companies, what happens is marketing creates collateral, presentations, videos, product information, all of these things. And they usually, they share it with sales by placing it maybe on a hard drive or a box or Dropbox or SharePoint or whatever technology they use to share it, but usually it's like one big mess because people are downloading it, changing it, so marketing has a lot of difficulties keeping control of the collateral and keeping control over branding and messaging, and also really knowing what salespeople do in the field. What are they using, what are they presenting, what are they sharing with their customers. And so with Showpad we solve the content struggle for marketing. We make sure they have control, they have insights, and we have an application. So marketing has a platform where they can upload all of the collateral, organize it, easily distribute it to the reps on any device, and then they get a lot of reports back from the users. And for sales, it's a mobile app we develop on. So we have Showpad is on iOS, iPad and iPhone, on Android, on Windows. We have a web application, and so we offer a tool for the reps to easily find all the information, prepare their meetings, present it to the customer, share it, and also then they get back notifications and also get insights what their customers do. So, and Showpad today, so we raised, so founded 2011, we currently raised about $10.5 million. We raised our money in Europe, so we're still headquartered in Ghent. All of our engineering happens in Belgium. I mean, we have a very small QA. Part of our QA team is in Ukraine. It's about 3 or 4 people. But development happens in Ghent, a small QA team in Ukraine. We celebrated today our 100th employee with Showpad. It's a milestone for our company. So we have 60 in Ghent, a small growing team of about almost 10 people in London and almost 40 people in San Francisco. So we have 750 customers. We're close to $10 million in annual recurring revenue.
Okay.
We're going to start fundraising for our next round, probably end of the year, beginning of next year. And we have tremendous growth, great product, a lot of customers, and so exciting times.
Okay, perfect. I think that's a very clear introduction. Now you're talking about you already have 3 offices across the world, and it's actually going pretty fast. You're already celebrating your 100th employee. How are you coping with the fast scaling of Showpad, and what are your experiences with that?
Well, you can only, of course, first of all, the first ingredient to have a fast-growing company, I think, or one of the essential ingredients is to have a product you can sell and market and sell, and some would call it MVP, and it is like we started selling Showpad even at the very early stages when it was still a very buggy product and totally didn't have all the features it has today. Already companies were interested and wanted to try it out, so having a good product. Second, if you really want to scale, you need to hire good managers, management, and that's very tough to learn that, because of course I had a little bit of management experience at Netlock. I managed a team at the end of about 15, 17 people, but the experience I have personally is very limited. And then of course, as your company grows, you have, today we have an engineering team of 25, 30 people. We have a sales team of 20 people. We have, and those people need structure. There needs to be some kind of management structure in place. And so really hiring people who've done it and who've been there before, that really helps. But in the beginning, of course, it's very hard to find the right people, because you don't have the experience in hiring good managers. You make some mistakes. There's a lot of lessons learned. Also, some managers are only good at maybe like managing a couple of people, but then it gets tougher when it's like when they have to manage people that manage people below them, because that's now the stage that we're at. So then you need to hire again. So, and there's a lot of challenges there. The titles, what do you pay them? Some you have to fire, some people don't want to work for them. So I learned to be really, like this year, a lot of my energy went into hiring the management team that we have today. We hired people from Google, from LinkedIn, from DocuSign, from Zuora, from all other very good enterprise SaaS companies. And so, so tip would be focus first on building a really good product, sell it, and then once you start scaling, really look for people who can help you to manage that growth.
Okay, so what would be your biggest pitfall or obstacle in scaling? Because now you're talking about mainly people or hiring good managers. Are there other things?
There's many pitfalls, and we still, I run into some of those pitfalls probably right now as well. There are several things that are very normal. You have to think about your pricing strategy of your product. Most of the time you will notice that you sell your product too cheap. Of course, it depends on how you price it from the beginning, but in the beginning you give a lot of discounts to big customers, and then it becomes really challenging because those customers talk with other customers, and so pricing is always something difficult. I think as well, really trying to keep your focus as well, because usually once you have a product that you can start selling, customers, one of the biggest, and I'm very happy that we did that with we avoided that. We almost ran into it with Showpad, but we avoided it. So we started selling Showpad, and then you have 5, 10, 20 customers. What happens is they will all give feedback and input. Hey, I want to have this feature. Oh, hey, I would like to have this. Hey, this would be a really good idea. So that's great. That feedback is great. It's so valuable. But you have to really be careful to not start promising to every customer, yeah, we're going to create this for you and this for you. Because at one time we had an idea that we would like white label the Showpad app for every customer because they had special requests and you're doing things. And that we would give an application so that the online platform would be the same for everybody, but that the application, the mobile app, would be tailored to some of our customers because they wanted to have their logo, they wanted to have some functionality for a trade show. But we saw some competitors doing that, and yes, they were able to charge more money to get some business. But the problem is that once you start, and especially in enterprise SaaS, if you ever want to develop a product in the SaaS world, where software as a service scaling is a very critical element, never run into the pitfall of developing separate products for different customers, or because before you know it you have several code bases to maintain, you have problems with support, you have problems with even sales or upsell, and it becomes technically a mess, support wise a mess, commercially as well a mess, because once you've done it, it's hard to say no to the next customer as well. So it's a lot about keeping your focus. We had to say no to a lot of customers. We actually refused a lot of business. In the beginning we had a customer who really wanted to pay us like 150 or 200,000 euros just to have Showpad in his own environment and on premise, and at that time we had like only a couple of employees, almost no money. And then it's really hard to say no. I mean, there's somebody waving a check of 200,000 euros and you think, whoa, what could we do with that money? And there's some choices to be made there. So I would say keep your focus, really be very, really know very well for yourself where do you want to go in the long term, and make your decisions based on that vision that you have.
Yeah, okay. You were already talking about competitors. Who would you describe as your main competitors? Because I guess there are a lot of apps that already do some kind of sales support, or? Yes,
I mean there's a lot of apps out there that do some form of content management. There's a lot of apps that do some content sharing. There's apps that do annotation. There's Showpad does all of those things. The really, I would say, key differentiator from Showpad lies in a couple of things. First of all, we have our backend system, and the way where marketing can manage the content is very sophisticated, but yet very simple and easy to use. And it's really tailored for. We have customers like Xerox or like Roche Diagnostics. Thousands of sales reps are on there. They have offices across the world. Here in Belgium, some good example customers: Atlas Copco, TVH, the forklift trucks. They have in every country they have marketing. In every country they have sales. They have partners, distributors. If the marketing team wants to manage content in that complex environment, it doesn't work with just having like a folder and do some drag and drop and even maybe do some tagging. You need we developed a lot of specific functionality, really focused on enabling our marketing the marketing department of our customers to easily work with several geographies, multi-language, all of those things. Also, don't forget that those big corporations, we have BNP as a customer. Security-wise, you have to be at the highest standard you can be. Even if you're... Showpad couldn't have had BNP as a customer in its first 2 years just because of the complex security requirements, and you have to have so much certification. So we have a very well thought through and very powerful backend. We have we're enterprise ready from a lot of features, single sign-on or API. Our architecture is really built for enterprise companies to integrate a lot of their systems on our platform, to integrate their CRM, to integrate. And before you get to that level, it takes a lot of time. And we differentiate definitely on those things with a lot of smaller companies we have regional competitors everywhere in every country, but the moment that a company sees what Showpad does, and we're working on algorithms like to start recommending content, we integrate fully with CRM, we have a whole data science team in San Francisco doing a lot of work on algorithms, our whole reporting and kind of data module is, we completely built it ourselves, and that's where we differentiate. So architecture, setup, the data and the recommendations, and then ultimately I think what is actually the most important is just simplicity, ease of use. I think at the end of the day the best product always wins, and you know, Showpad is very simple, easy to use. We focus a lot on adoption with our salespeople, or with the salespeople, because ultimately the sales rep is our end customer in most of the cases. And so we spend a lot of time bringing in sales reps into our office, seeing how they use the application, constantly improving, and it looks super simple. If you will use Showpad, it's very simple. But there's a lot of, as Steve Jobs said, simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. And to get there, it takes a lot of work by product engineering, gathering feedback from the customers. So.
Now we're talking about a finished product, but here at Le Wagon, we as students are developing or trying to develop MVPs. How would you describe your road to an MVP, or did it take a long time, or was it immediately spot on?
It took I think from really having the idea to like the first version of Showpad, it took us probably I think 10 to 12 weeks to have. We already had prototypes earlier, but after 12 weeks we really had something that the customer could actually use already. So we had a backend and we had an iOS app. At that time only iPad. I still have the original brainstorm, or still our very first where we scoped our MVP. I still have the picture of it was just on a flip chart. It had like 4 or 5 it had like the content uploading. It had some sharing functionality. It had customization and branding. It had folder structures and some very, very basic things. And so 12 weeks, a lot of iterations. We had 3 engineers. So Peter, my co-founder, he worked on the back end. We had one iOS developer working on the iPad app, and then we had one designer, and then Louis and myself were really focused as well on we were constantly testing it out and trying it. So that's a team who built the first application, and we actually, the good thing was, and that's always interesting when you build a product, is that we already had one customer who expressed interest in it, and so we could easily test it with him, and we had several other customers very soon after that we were able to put it in their hands, and for example the first Showpad customer ever, so after 2 years when we saw that Showpad was getting so much traction, we gave them I wrote them a letter and I gave them Showpad licenses unlimited for free. So my first customer doesn't have to pay anymore. So he paid enough. He paid, and that was the deal with the first customer. We pitched him the idea of Showpad. We said, look, we're going to charge you, 3K or something for kind of delivering that product to you. But then if it's successful, we will go to a per seat pricing and do it on a yearly basis. But eventually we just said, okay, you can have it for free. So
that's great. I was talking earlier to you about the responsible from Pieterjan, from the Audi department. He was very, I talked to him, I guess, last year, end of last year. And he was very enthusiastic about Showpad. And I was asking about how the technology is evolving for Showpad itself. Is there any future in augmented reality, or are you actually looking for other routes as well for Showpad?
I mean, basically, first of all, sales is totally changing. Sales reps in the past, when you think of field sales, first of all, they were selling features and very standard products. Right now, selling is becoming a lot more value selling and guided selling, and so they need new technology for that. So there's a shift to, a super salesperson, I call it, and because salespersons also are mini marketers, they have to do field sales meetings with iPads, they have to do follow-up emails, they have to do webinars, they have the sales rep of the future that is really selling complex products, because of course a lot of sales is already happening very transactional and just online and e-commerce, but in B2B you see the rise of the super rep, I call it. Another step, I mean, of course we're always thinking, I mean, we did some, Showpad is always like, once we see new technologies, our team starts experimenting with it. We already have, also on the Apple Watch, you can get your notifications of Showpad, you can set your meetings. We're of course very excited with the iPad Pro launching, and also in the future we believe that a lot of sales as well we see a big future for virtual reality, and like Audi, I know they are looking into that, because of course if look, Facebook, Zuckerberg, when he acquired the Oculus guys for a couple of billion, it's not something that is, hey, I'm just gonna buy these guys because it's fun. It's also because virtual reality is a very real, will change a lot of things. It will take 5 to 10 years. It will be the same thing with self-driving cars, but virtual reality can have a very big impact on sales. Imagine that just behind your laptop you can explore a new car, or you can explore new products, or you can go to another location virtually and try and meet things or discuss things with other people. So we're looking into that, but it's more kind of like we do once we do a heavy sprint with the development team, for example, usually then we do like one day where we just work on things that are non-Showpad related. A couple of weeks back we just did like a lot with Lego, and everybody we made 4 teams and they had to program some Lego robots, and then we did some contests. So virtual reality, some people already worked with there's an SDK already where you can do some stuff. It's still early stages, but so yes, we look a lot to other technologies.
Okay, you were talking about doing stuff with the team as well. Now your company is growing very fast. Is your company culture still the same? Is it hard to maintain a good company culture? And how would you how does your hiring process look like?
Company culture, I think it's one of the things that I really had to learn as well. In the beginning, when you start a company, when you're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people, it's very easy to maintain the culture, right? You don't have to do anything to maintain it, because even when you're with 10, the people in the room or the people that you work with, that's the culture. And they set the culture, and you're forming the culture. Right now with 100 people, the good thing is that because of the geographical spread of those people, that Showpad still feels, in Ghent it feels like a 60 people company. In San Francisco it's 40 people. In London it feels like a tiny startup, because there are only 6 or 7 people in the office there. So that helps. And yeah, we do, it's a big focus for me in the hiring, first of all. I really focus a lot on culture, and everybody focuses a lot on culture. We have, we have some, values that we think are important. We have, a decision-making process, a bit similar like how Google does it, where, several. Personally, like for example, at this stage, I never do a hire anymore completely by myself. There's always other people that will interview, and also if I alone don't want a person in my company, I could maybe do a veto, but I never did it. Like we do it in a team. And the hiring process for us, it's simple. I look for people who are smart, humble, and hungry. So smart people who want to keep learning. Humble is you take your job very seriously, but yourself not so much. And hungry, of course, you're really motivated and you want to go for yeah, you want to do crazy things and work really hard for it. I think at the end of the day, if you want to have your own company, if you really want to do a startup, it takes hard work as well, and you need the team around you that is also willing to really work hard, but have a lot of fun. I think at the end of the day, you have to have, if you're not having fun, you should stop what you're doing and do something else, because life's too short to waste hours and days on doing things you don't like. So.
All right. I guess this is a very good quote to end our talk and leave the next questions for the public.
All right. So I think so. First of all, how do you spot talent like that? That's the first. And how do you hire them? Of course, that's a big part from what I do. Hiring nowadays, it's not the person on. Hiring used to be, hey, I would like to work at your company, and you would have to really do your best to get in a company. I think nowadays a lot of my work, especially with VPs or with, if I look to the hiring of the very experienced profiles, that's where I am actually selling Showpad. I'm selling the vision, I'm selling the team, I'm selling our, what we want to do. With David in particular, that was a bit different because he joined Showpad at a very early stage, about I think about now it's going to be 3 years ago almost. So by the end of the year, it will be 3 years ago. And with David, he was a rock star singer. So for people who don't know David, he was the guitarist of Aret. So Aret is a pretty famous band in Belgium, but he was also, when the band was not touring, he was actually selling audio equipment. That was his hobby, and he did Vlerik, and he studied economy. He's a master in economics, so he's a smart guy. He's always looking to learn, and also as a rock star, you also have to hustle. It's like, but yeah, it's like, you have to, you don't go from just playing some music to a well-known band without being entrepreneurial. You have to go out there, play a lot of gigs, connect with people, take care of your marketing, of your PR, and also be good at sales. And so so when I first, David actually, we met him because he worked at a company, Content Republic, which was focusing on content for kind of marketing automation. It was like the early days of marketing automation. And so that's how he got interested in Showpad, how we got to know him, and just by then talking to him and collaborating. Yeah, so spotting is a combination of, if you go to experienced people, spotting is not that difficult, but the convincing is more difficult because you have to really sell your company. You have to turn the tables around. And then the second thing with really hiring people, it's a combination. I really try to make sure I have a clear idea of what that person needs to do. I try to see what things can I ask that would give me evidence. I really always try to look for evidence of certain behavior. Third is, I think also important, is gut feel. Like I think it's really important. Like the times I didn't follow my gut feel, where I had I was doubting, should I hire this person or not? And when I was really in doubt and I did hire the person, usually it didn't end well. So gut feel usually can have for me at least, it's very important. I think, what was your second question? I'm sorry, I'm a bit tired. I already answered it? All right.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, other questions?
I think,
yeah. Very good question. Yes, because we're hiring a lot of people, and we need a lot of engineers and developers. So I would say anybody can get a job at Showpad, but of course it depends on what we're looking for. So from the engineering part, there's a couple of things that we will look at. I think again, for me, more important than the coding, the pure because I heard here you guys are focusing on Ruby on Rails. We don't use that technology at Showpad, but for me and also for VP of engineering, for example, that's actually not an issue. Of course, it helps if you would know PHP and have some experience. That's always, it can help, but at the end of the day, it's not important. We hired a lot of we hired people who worked at who were programming in some obscure language at programming medical robots and things like that. So we hired people that basically we hired some guy that actually also said, hey, I don't have any coding experience, but I want to learn it, and he had some other skills that we could use at the time. So we said, you know what, you can join us here, work on kind of more algorithm. He was very good in math, and so he worked on some algorithms and more mathematical stuff that he could immediately apply his skills. And meantime, he learned how to code, and now eventually actually evolved to he's now in our QA department working on testing automation and things like that. So I would say the most important thing that we look at is like, is this a smart person? Is this person, how fast does he or she learn? We have some tests. We do some technical tests with every engineer that comes into our company. But it's, regardless of the score, we're looking more as well at how you solve certain challenges. So it's a way of thinking more important again than really the having the syntax or the experience in the code base. You do the code completely right. And so we have a broad range of open job positions from backend to front end to mobile, Android, Windows, iOS. We hire people that work on infrastructure because we have we maintain part of Showpad is running on our own infrastructure. We have QA department that is doing a lot of the testing and automation. So I would say definitely, if you're interested, anybody here, you can apply. And the process is it's very simple. So there's a kind of first we do a CV screening, then there's a short phone screen where we ask just some questions, some basic things. Then usually there's an interview. There's a test like an online test. Then there's an interview, and usually at Showpad, every engineer gets interviewed by 3 to 4 people. And then the committee, we call it the committee, but it's nothing really formal. It doesn't take like hours because we have a very standardized way of like how we clearly list the skills that we look for. We clearly, everybody rates the person. It's like there's, from 1 to 4, 1 being no, 2 being no, and 3 being good, and 4 being very good. So there's always kind of clear yes or no, and in terms of the areas that we evaluate. And then everybody looks at. Usually I'm the last person that then looks at kind of all of the data, we make. But it's usually very clear the decision from the group just by looking at the data, and then that's when we hire. And there's people can learn a lot. There's a lot of, we have experienced people, very junior people, so we're very open to, because for me the learning, the drive to learn is the most important, and really seeing that progress of that person, that's the most important. So, does it cover your question, Hilke? All right, cool, thank you. So definitely apply, don't hesitate. So you can only, and it already happens sometimes that we, even sometimes when we're sometimes in doubt, we will, we had people that we said, look, in those areas it was a bit difficult, and we had people that then, applied like 6 months later again. We took them again through the whole process. We clearly saw progress, and that's what we want to see. We don't want to see, we're not only hiring people at the top of their game. No, we're hiring people that have a big attraction and big road ahead of them in terms of learning. All right, next question. But that's actually by coincidence, and Ukraine is. We actually work with a partner there. They're called Scalia. I know them from a previous at Netloch. They also helped. Well, I don't know if they helped things. I'm not actually sure if they helped. They worked for Netloch, but I met those people during my role there. So, and we were looking to. Yeah, we have to do a lot of tests on mobile devices, like really manual, kind of like really run, every time we iterate on, or we ship new features, we have to test it on like all the types of devices, but then also kind of like, hey, with iOS 3.8 and 4.1 and because of course our customers, we have, they're not always, a lot of our customers deploy their mobile devices through an MDM solution, so mobile device management, and so they can easily control the versioning. So it's not because Apple releases something, for example, a new update of iOS, that immediately all of our customers in the following weeks update. So in Ukraine we have all the guys there have and we have to buy all of those devices, and there's literally tens, probably almost 100 different devices and different software installed, and they do a lot of the manual testing, and just because of course it's it's test scripts, it's a bit more manual, it's a bit more repetitive, and yes, of course, in those countries you can find the labor is a bit cheaper than here. It's not as cheap as people would think, but it's a bit better to do it there, so it makes more sense. So that's how we end up in Ukraine, but they actually moved offices to more, they went more to the west. So to make sure, but it's a great. Yeah, they work in great conditions, and it's they do a lot. That company does a lot of testing, so they're actually very smart people who do it there. So, but it's something probably you have to look into, those kind of things, like outsourcing. Personally, from development side, we don't outsource anything yet. We're looking into that, but we've always decided there's enough talent here in Belgium. There's enough. It makes more sense to keep it here than to really develop something in Ukraine. Cool.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, because some investors, US investors, especially in the early stages, they won't be interested in investing in your company. Some, not all of them. I think the mindset is changing there. Especially it was at the first time we were raising money, Belgium was in a very politically unstable thing. We just had a government or stuff like that. It's always and especially in the US, then they have a very black and white image of that, and they think, whoa, you guys even don't have a government. Why would we pour money into some NV or BVBA or whatever, But I think times are changing. I think eventually you shouldn't be too worried about it. I think the main reason, the big problem with having a Belgian corporation is more on the kind of legal side of things when it comes to giving warrants, stock options to people. It can get quite tricky because in Belgium you have to chase a signature, even if people have warrants, so they don't have stock yet, but they have the option or the possibility when their warrants vest to obtain stock. But even at that stage, you still need their signature on the most crazy things, which can really slow down raising money and can be an issue if you have somebody who doesn't want to cooperate. So we have people in the US that we fired that have stock, but that can really block. Eventually they will not stop it, but they could delay a fundraise for a couple of weeks. And that, last fundraise we had money for 2 more weeks on the bank. So if then somebody would do, if somebody wouldn't like to sign, then you would have a problem. But it does impact. But at the end of the day, I think we shouldn't be too worried about it. But you have to be smart in setting it up. If I would set up, if you would ask me to set it up now, I would probably, even though I would keep development and stuff in Belgium, I would probably start my company in the UK now. Do LTD until the Belgian government changes or modernizes some of its laws concerning how the whole incorporation and rights and obligations and stuff like that, because it's when I had our second fund is a UK fund. When they invested money, they were quite surprised. They were quite surprised to see how fucking crazy it is. I still have a picture because we signed it. I actually signed the Series B here in the office of Stibbe here on the top floor. I posted a picture of the paperwork on Instagram if you want to see it. It's a table from here still there, and it's full of papers, and it's a couple of nights without no sleep, and you have 100,000 euros in lawyers you have to pay to make it happen. So, and the VCs are a bit scared of that kind of things as well. So it's a challenge. Well, if I would be based in Ghent, I would start in the UK. You would also need a Belgian corporation, but I would put all of the IP probably in the UK and all of the main seed, because again, right now I have to in my next fundraise all our employees have stock. I'm gonna have to chase more than 100 signatures on every document. That's a lot. So that's welcome to Belgium. But you should survive, and I hope I will survive. But so I'm not saying that. So you still have to start a company here, but just from the fundraising perspective, it is a lot more attractive to raise it with a UK corporation or Inc. You can start an Inc. We started Showpad Inc. while we were still living in Belgium. It's very easy. You have to call a lawyer in the US and say, I want to start a company, and 2 hours later the Inc. is there. That's very easy, because you don't need to have a start capital like us in the US. You don't need to. In Belgium you need like a minimum capital. US you don't need that. In the UK the same. You don't need that. So in Belgium, I think there's a lot of advantages to start in Belgium. I think you have highly educated people who work very hard. I visit everybody at Showpad works very hard, but the Belgians have a real. I can say the Belgian work ethic is real. Like, we work very hard. We're very dedicated. I think we adapt very easily. To different cultures, working with different people from different continents is not a problem for us. I think the Belgium as a market and as a geographical location has a lot of advantages. Early on we had customers in Paris, in Amsterdam, in the UK, and so you have access from Belgium very easily. Within 1 or 2 hours on the plane, you can cover a very big an economic region which is almost as big as actually the US in terms of, like, if you would just look at kind of like the economic power it has. The big challenge is, of course, then all the languages and the support, and it can be sometimes a bit tricky to navigate. But I think that's a real advantage. Like, if you're trying out a product, and I think the cool thing with Belgium is it does have a lot of there's a lot of big companies who have satellite offices here, and where in Belgium sometimes actually they get some kind of special budget to try things, or because they're not going to try the most innovative things immediately in their main market, right? So they want to try it more in kind of like, let's try it in Belgium or in Netherlands so I think that's an example. If you're working on new technology and you're working from Belgium, and because of course as Belgians usually we speak very well French, we speak well, our English is good, maybe we speak some German, but still we can go easily in a lot of markets where also the US startups are not there yet, because that's the latest of their worries, Europe. So they first want to grow to 50 million in the US before they think about going to Europe. So it's good because you don't have the big competitors yet there, and you can go more under the radar. So I think there's a lot of advantages of starting your company in Belgium. We're a SaaS company. We are very metric driven. And we actually know very well if we spend we know that every euro we spend in marketing, within the year we get it's 10 euro in return, actually, within the first 12 months. So we have all of these metrics which just show, like, okay, the more you spend in sales and marketing, the bigger a company gets, and the more growth you will have. But of course, we're always, hiring ahead of the curve. We're always hiring more engineers, so we just have to fundraise because right now Showpad is from a cash perspective, and we're not making any profit, and it's very cash intensive because we're hiring so many people in such a fast rate. Like an enterprise salesperson, it takes like easily 6 to 9 months before that person will close his first deals. So that's a 9-month investment before you get the first return.
So you have already a plan of possible exit in mind then?
No, actually not.
Let me repeat the question.
Yeah, so Nicolas asked if there's a plan for a possible exit.
Or which, let's say, which level you would like to...
We've built a plan to grow the company to 100 million in annual recurring revenue, and that's a 4 to 5 year plan, and that we're in. So, we want to get there by 2019. In current valuations, that would mean that Showpad by then is $1 billion company. I don't know if we're going to get there. We're going to do the best that we can, but that's good. Like, we do those exercises. We think we thought ahead. When I first pitched Showpad 4 or 5 years ago, I said to the investors, I'm going to build you a $100 million company. Right now we're at 10 million annual recurring revenue. If you just take some of the multiples in our industry, you could say that Showpad's value is theoretically around 100 million. At that time, it's something very intangible. But so right now, I think it's very powerful to look very far ahead of where you want to go. Even though it's sometimes, and just make the exercise mentally, like how many people, how will sales and marketing look like, what do we need to develop on the product. So that's kind of like the exercise that we're doing right now, and so that's our ambition. So 100 million ARR, and that's a big team in the company. Sorry?
That's also what the investors want to see.
That's of course what the investors want to see, but that's also what I want to achieve. No, but if I look, that depends on your ambition, and like right now I could easily stop hiring people, and within 6 months Showpad would be from cash perspective already a profit. Like, we would be cash flow positive within 6 months, but we would really kill our growth. And so yes, we take risks, but metrics show that we should do it, and eventually, of course, there's a lot of things that can go wrong. If the economic climate deteriorates, if maybe you have a very strong competitor coming up, maybe one of the big guys, Salesforce or Microsoft, do some things. That's always the risk. I mean, that's the game. But we try to be as smart as we can. Love the question. Sometimes I wonder myself. No, but I think for me, I was always passionate about technology. Like, even though I studied communication sciences because I didn't have a really good idea at that time what I wanted to do, and I heard, hey, you only have like 18 hours of courses. It's some marketing. And I thought, hey, that's cool because like I'll have like only 18 or 20 hours of courses. I have a lot of time because I was doing a lot of other things in the Presidium or in the youth movement. Or I said, look, that's great. I can get a university degree, still have a lot of time for other projects, which I did, and where also I learned a lot. But I was always passionate about technology. Like, I was always like buying, spending my money on what my mom usually said, like stupid gadgets, and like I was the first to buy like a at that time, not smartphone, just cell phone, and like I was always passionate about technology and computers, and I learned some like basic HTML and CSS just doing it on my own, and I built some websites for some people, and so that's where my passion for technology came from. And then I studied economics. After I did my communication sciences, I did feel I was always super interested in business and economics, and I said like, oh, okay, let's do 1 more year purely focused on that, some accounting, some finance, and also there was a kind of internship and stuff like that, so in a company, and that then, for me that was a perfect match, because I did have communication sciences. I did learn a lot about marketing, and had some interesting like multimedia courses, combine it with business. But then at the end of the day, you learn that practical experience and just going out there is the most valuable thing, right? So that's how eventually I then became an entrepreneur. But I believe that it's, for me, being entrepreneur is just, you can have multiple ways of being an entrepreneur. There's people who are very entrepreneurial, but who work even at a bank or something. I mean, you can be. It depends how you. No, it is like that. Some entrepreneurs do it really by themselves, but other people are very entrepreneurial in maybe even their hobbies or the things they do. So for me, entrepreneuring is doing things and building things and together with other people, and challenging yourself. So multiple ways of doing that.
All right.
Cool.
I guess we'll wrap it up. Thank you for coming,
No,
Pieterjan.
welcome.